There is a painting in Madrid that has been confusing the world for 500 years. It hangs in the Prado Museum. It is approximately 4 feet tall and 13 feet wide when fully open. It shows, in extraordinary and bewildering detail, a paradise, a garden of impossible pleasures, and a hell of exquisite torments. All 3 panels connected. All 3 happening simultaneously. All 3 painted by a man from a small Dutch town who left behind almost no biographical record, no letters, no explanations, and no mercy for anyone who tried to understand him. His name was Hieronymus Bosch, and the Garden of Earthly Delights is either the most elaborate warning against sin ever painted, or the most sophisticated act of religious subversion in the history of Western art, or a secret initiation manual for a heretical sect that believed paradise could be reached through pleasure, or all 3 simultaneously, or none of them. Nobody knows. Not the Prado, not the art historians, not the church that originally commissioned it. Nobody has ever known. And that, 500 years later, is exactly the point. Hieronymus Bosch was born around 1450 in 's-Hertogenbosch, a prosperous town in what is now the Netherlands. Almost nothing is known about his life. He was a member of a conservative religious brotherhood. He married a wealthy woman. He painted. He died in 1516. That is essentially all the documentary record gives us. No apprenticeship records. No letters to patrons explaining his intentions. No diary. No confession. No contemporaries who described meeting him or understanding what he was doing. For a painter of his stature, his work was collected by Spanish kings, copied by other artists, and discussed in courts across Europe within decades of his death. The silence is extraordinary. It is almost as if he planned it. What he left behind, instead of explanations, is the paintings themselves. And the paintings are unlike anything else in the history of Western art, before or since. Half human, half animal creatures walking upright. Giant birds feeding humans to machines. People emerging from flowers and fruits and eggs. Musical instruments used as instruments of torture. A pair of ears with a blade between them marching across a burning landscape. Fish with legs. Transparent spheres containing sleeping figures. Strawberries the size of people. Owls sitting in the center of things that have no business containing owls. The visual language of Bosch is so specific, so consistent, so elaborate that it clearly means something. The same symbols recur across dozens of paintings. The same creatures appear in different contexts with what seems like deliberate purpose. He was saying something. The question that has haunted scholars for 5 centuries is what? The official interpretation, the one the church was comfortable with, the one that allowed his paintings to hang in palaces and cathedrals without causing their owners to be excommunicated, is that the Garden of Earthly Delights is a moral warning. The left panel shows paradise, the creation of Eve, the garden before the fall, everything still innocent and new. The central panel shows the world as it is, humanity lost in the pleasures of the flesh, naked figures engaged in an endless carousel of sensual indulgence, oblivious to the consequences. The right panel shows hell, the inevitable destination of everyone in the central panel, a burning nightmare landscape of punishment and despair. Read this way, the triptych is a straightforward sermon. Sin leads to damnation. The pleasures of the garden lead to the torments of the fire. This interpretation has one significant problem. If this were a moral warning, the hell panel should be the most overwhelming, the most terrifying, the most elaborately designed. The punishment should be what you remember. But Bosch did the opposite. The central panel, the Garden of Pleasures, is the largest, the most detailed, the most joyful, the most irresistibly beautiful section of the entire work. He put everything he had into making the sin look magnificent. That is not how you paint a warning. It is painted with delight. The figures in the garden are not suffering. They are not shown as lost or degraded. They are shown as joyful, sensuous, free. engaged in pleasures that the painter has rendered with unmistakable tenderness and care. If this is a warning against sin, it is the most seductive warning in the history of religious art, which raises the question that the official interpretation cannot answer. What if it isn't a warning at all? In the late medieval Netherlands, there existed a movement so radical that the Church spent 2 centuries trying to eradicate it. They called themselves the Brethren of the Free Spirit. Their theology, stripped to its essentials, was this: the human soul is already divine. Sin is a concept invented by institutions to control people. If you can achieve a state of complete spiritual freedom, a return to the innocence of Adam and Eve before the fall, then nothing you do in that state can be sinful, because in that state you are already in paradise. They believed, in other words, that the garden was not lost, that it could be recovered, that the naked figures playing in the stream and eating the giant fruit and riding the impossible animals were not sinners heading toward damnation. They were the enlightened, already there. This interpretation transforms the triptych completely. The left panel is not just the past, it is also the destination. The creation of Eve is not the prelude to the fall, but the model for what humanity can recover. The central panel is not a warning, it is a vision of achieved paradise. The naked figures are not lost in sin, they are free. The right panel, the hell, is not the destiny of the people in the garden, it is the destiny of those who never made it. The musicians being tortured by their own instruments, the glutton consumed by his own appetite, the vain figure condemned to gaze at his own reflection forever. Hell, in this reading, is not punishment for pleasure, it is punishment for the wrong relationship to pleasure, for making pleasure an end in itself rather than a path to freedom. The difference is everything. Now go deeper, because in the right panel of the Garden of Earthly Delights, in the section depicting hell, there is something that has no business being in a 15th century painting. There are figures with music written on their bodies, not decorative marks, not random patterns. Actual musical notation, a staff, notes, a complete piece of music tattooed across the buttocks of a damned figure lying face down in the darkness of hell. For 500 years, this music existed as a visual curiosity, something to notice and wonder about and move on from. Then, in 2014, a student at Oklahoma Christian University named Amelia Ham decided to transcribe it. She took the notation from the painting, transferred it to modern musical staff paper, and played it. The music that came out had not been heard since Bosch painted it, sometime before 1510. It is strange. It is haunting. It sounds like nothing else from the period. It has been described as simultaneously medieval and modern, familiar and deeply alien. Why did Bosch hide a piece of music in hell? Was it a joke? A signature? A message to someone specific? A piece of music so sinful it deserved to be damned? A hymn of the Brethren of the Free Spirit encoded in the one place where no orthodox eye would think to look for sacred music. Nobody knows. But the fact that it is there, that Bosch hid something playable, something real, something that waited 500 years to be heard, tells us something important about the man who painted it. He was not painting at random, he was hiding things deliberately, carefully, with the patience and precision of someone who expected to be misunderstood and was comfortable with that, who was, in fact, counting on it. Philip II of Spain, one of the most powerful Catholic monarchs in history, the man who launched the Spanish Armada, the enforcer of the Inquisition in the Netherlands, owned the Garden of Earthly Delights. He kept it in his private bedroom. Think about that for a moment. The most zealous Catholic king of the 16th century, surrounded by the machinery of the Inquisition, chose to sleep every night in the presence of the most ambiguous, the most potentially heretical, the most visually overwhelming painting in his collection. Why? One theory is that Philip read it exactly as the Church wanted, as a moral warning, a reminder of the consequences of sin, an appropriate meditation for a man of power. Another theory is that Philip understood exactly what he was looking at and kept it close precisely because of that. That the painting's power, its refusal to be resolved, its insistence on holding paradise and hell in the same frame simultaneously, was exactly what a man who spent his life making absolute decisions needed beside him when he slept. A third theory is simpler and more unsettling. That nobody, not Philip, not his advisors, not the Inquisition, not the scholars who studied it, ever fully understood what Bosch had made. And Bosch knew they wouldn't. The Garden of Earthly Delights has been in the Prado since 1939. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people stand in front of it. They stand closer than they are supposed to. They crane their necks, they pull out phones, they try to take in everything at once, and find that they cannot, that the painting defeats every attempt to resolve it into a single meaning, a single emotion, a single verdict. This is not an accident. Bosch was a man of enormous technical skill and evident intelligence, who lived in a world where the wrong opinion could get you burned. He left no letters, no explanations, no apprentices who recorded his intentions. He created a visual language so complex and so internally consistent that it clearly means something. And then he died and took the key with him. What remains is the painting, and the music written in hell that nobody heard for 500 years, and the question that every era has asked and none has answered. What was he trying to say? Maybe the answer is that the question is the point, that a painting which holds paradise and damnation in the same frame, which makes pleasure look like freedom and punishment look like music, which hides messages in places where no one will look for 5 centuries. Maybe that painting is not trying to give you an answer. Maybe it is trying to make you stop being comfortable with the ones you already have. If this made you look at something familiar in a completely new way, share it with someone who thinks they've already seen everything. And if you want to go deeper into the artists, the secrets, and the masterpieces that contain the truths we were never supposed to find, subscribe to Hidden Canvas. The garden is larger than you think.